What's up, vinyl community? This is Rich. Add Embarrassment of Riches back for the first time in over a month. I'll spare you all that. You know, typical shit. Summertime's coming. Weather is great. We've been out planting, doing yard work. We're making a fire pit. We're making a fucking chicken coop. Like, we got that country life down now that we've been out here in Pennsylvania for about 5 years. Regardless, May was a great month for vinyl. A couple of pre orders came in on time, which is always a bonus, and it's not something we've learned to expect over the last couple of years. And one or two good record shopping trips, but mostly as ever, I just keep my saved searches on eBay and watch when something comes up. And I have my price points pretty set to where I'm willing to go and where I just can't venture. More often than not, lately, for whatever reason, even though the economy is circling the drain, or if you're in Australia, anyway, yeah, a lot of people are spending money on vinyl. I think there's a lot of panic collecting going on where it's kind of now or never if you've got the money to get something that you've always wanted, that now might be the time because you're fucking white knuckling it on the way there. Anyway, here's a short stack. I could probably make a couple of these videos. I'm trying to keep them down to maybe 15 minutes of interesting chatter about a record, or 5 or 10. And I'm due for a couple of these. There's a couple of topics that I've started. I have projects in Final Cut Pro that are at various points of completion, and I just haven't gotten there yet. I'm working on it. I miss the vinyl community, being a contributor to it. I still watch everybody's videos, like I always say I do. And I'm really working on catching up on commenting on YouTube, because even though I watch them on the big TV, I have to come back in here to comment on them. It seems kind of redundant. Anyway, yeah. So I'm trying to keep my buying to a minimum, make smart purchases and things that I've always wanted in the price range that I can afford to have them. We'll see how that goes in the long run. But like I said, May's been pretty good. I have a few here. I'm not going to lay out all of them because I think in total I've got way too many to make a 15-minute video with. And I know how the collective attention span of you two can be, even though in the vinyl community we are made of sterner stuff and will listen and watch things that are interesting. I can't promise that this is going to be interesting, but I'm going to plow through it anyway because I'm that guy. And first up for the April May record collecting adventures that I have been on is one of my favorite dancehall reggae toasters, the Yellowman. This is Duppy or Gunman, 1982 release from the Yellow Fella. I don't have a whole lot of the toasting dancehall type of reggae stuff. Um, Pretty much only Yellowman is all I'm interested in. And when I find this 1982 release right here is right in the wheelhouse of the Yellowman that I want to get. I'm only looking for a partial bit of his discography that I'm semi familiar with. There's cuts there that I haven't heard. There's albums I didn't even know existed. Shit. This is from 1982. He released 7 albums in 1982 and 8 more in 1983. And the one that I'm really after, Nobody Move, Nobody Get Hurt, you're not going to see that one. I want the Jamaican one. Like, I'll definitely always go for the Jamaican pressings when I can. Still, this is a very good effort. Always worth listening to. Glad I got it. I've got 3 Yellowman records now. And like I said, that's about it for my dancehall toasting collection that I think I'm going to be looking for. Unless somebody comes up with something better and lets me know. And it certainly has all the pedigree of a reggae classic. It's produced by scientists, recorded at Channel One, and the backup band is the Roots Radics. You cannot possibly beat this era of reggae for rhythm sections. Yeah, this is a good one to have. This next record that I picked up is one of those really rare ones that has always surprised me at how inexpensive it is. And in these times when a record will often go for 45, $50 for a double LP of a new record that really has no guarantee that it's going to be around for 30, 40 years and still be considered something classic. That's just the price of doing business now. Expensive records, and fucking who knows if they're going to be any good. So when I see something like Pure Cult, the singles 1984 to 1995, which is all classic cuts from, of course, peak era Cult. And what is that? She Sells Sanctuary. There is Edie Chow Baby, Fire Woman, Love Removal Machine. I mean, there is no shortage of hits on this thing, and I consistently see it for less than $30. It blows my mind. So finally, I picked it up. I bought the box set a couple of years ago that has these two LPs that comprise this singles collection and a double LP of them performing basically a greatest hits show in 2001, which is pretty nice. But again, bang for buck, Pure Cult is a non-skip all-time great singles collection. Man, I am baking balls up in here. This next great record that I picked up from a pre-order that was delivered on time, yes, is the first full length from this band on a major label, and it is the Old Crow Medicine Show, self-titled. There's a little reflection here because these are still in the plastic. Love this record. Absolutely love this record. And there is also a biographical bit to this as well. I, let's say, circa 2004, I was not a fan of what was contemporary country music at that time at all. Like, fuck, I still am not contemporary minded. But one night, I was flipping through channels. This is more than 20 years ago. And it clicked and it ended on the country music television. It was like CMT, I believe. It was MTV for country folk, I suppose. And yeah, I never watched that shit. But there was a live performance video going on, and for whatever reason, stopped, put the remote down, and listened. And it was the song Tell It to Me from the Old Crow Medicine Show. And it did not seem anything like what the high gloss, tight jean, modern country sound. Fuck, it's still the same, isn't it? What was going on at the time was nothing like it. I loved it, man. I immediately went and got that CD. I still have it, but it's never been on vinyl until this release right here, which was released by Coney Records, which is the label owned by Dave Rawlings and Gillian Welch. And they put out only premium, beautiful sounding music, whether it's Dave solo or Gillian solo or them together or the Dave Rawlings machine or the solo joints from Mr. Willie Watson there in the center, who's gone back and forth with the Old Crow Medicine Show and mainly has a solo career. And his latest solo album on A Coney that was released last year, first album of his of all new material. He usually does really good interpretations of classics and harder to find old songs. But the new one is really good. I enjoyed that record. I don't know if I included that in the video last year, but I got that around September, I think. So yeah, this is awesome. I mean, maybe you've heard Wagon Wheel or Big Time in the Jungle is another really great song on this one. But Tell It to Me is the song that really made me believe that country music wasn't super lame. And I still listen to that song. I still listen to this band. And I guess I have them to thank for the fact that I grew a new branch on the listening tree of music in my collection. So, yeah. Thanks, fellas. The next pickup is a funk and breakbeat classic that I was really surprised to find at an antique store in the middle of rural Pennsylvania. Could be why it was so cheap. It's a reissue, but it's the JB's Food for Thought. I have a copy of this that I bought back in the late 90s, I believe. And it came with a purple colored 45. I think it had Past the Peas. Past the Peas, like they used to say. But this, if you're a hip hop fan at all from the era that I grew up in. This just sounds like a collection of all the breaks that the Bomb Squad used, and like there's G Funk samples you could find. The JBs were a super, super solid backing band for James Brown. That's where the JB comes from. I think this record's heavy. They say it's 180 grams, but I swear it feels like it weighs 4 pounds. I'm gonna use this thing as a doorstop. But interestingly, this is the second iteration of James Brown's backing band. I mean, he lost everybody in early 1970, I believe, when he wasn't paying anybody and he wasn't giving them any songwriting credits. And that ain't right. But that's just how James does business. Recruited a new band, and that included Bootsy Collins, his brother Catfish. Clyde Stubblefield would be on drums. I mean, Maceo and Bobby Bird eventually came back and made just a powerhouse group, just absolutely killing it on every single track. And then again, I think he pissed off some more people by not paying them, and half of that band left. And good news and bad news for them, they found George Clinton, another guy who is loath to give songwriting credits, but is eager to pay you in cocaine instead of cash. So great music, terrible, terrible, ugly businessmen involved, but man, isn't that how it goes in this, huh? And really, I'm digressing here just because it's a fucking hobby horse of mine. But classic slab of funk wax right here. If you don't have it, this one will please almost anybody who's at the least bit interested in how the height of funk sounded in the early 70s. So do yourself a favor. The reissues are very reasonably priced. Don't go looking for the originals because you will not like the 3-digit price tags on those. But this can be had sometimes at antique malls in rural areas for $10. So keep your eyes open. And next up is one that's not exceedingly rare either, but I have been looking for in the wild for quite a while and just have not happened upon. It's pretty strange. It's not valuable and it's really kind of dismissed by a lot of Beatles collectors. This is a collection of Beatles oldies. This was, I believe, their first greatest hits compilation, and this is a collection of singles that most Americans were familiar with, but the English weren't because they were on American EPs or there were different mixes, or you know how EMI and Capitol were really shitting the bed back then, and they'll put out anything with the Beatles name on it. This one in particular, I believe, came out because it was in '66 and they had just become hip to the fact that the Beatles did not want to tour anymore. And in a panic, EMI and Brian Epstein figured we got to get something out. It's Christmas time. The Beatles fans want something and they're not going to get a show. Let's just churn out something that we know that they already like and we'll make them eat it again for a few quid. And despite its mercenary beginnings, it's got a collection of songs that I really enjoy. This is pre Sergeant Pepper. So it's some of the hits of that first phase of the Beatles, the happy Beatles, you know. And it starts with my first favorite Beatles song, which is She Loves You. I played that 45 to death. I inherited that from my older sisters. That was a hook that got into me at a very young age. I must have been 6 or 7. I mean, I used to really just play the living hell out of that 45. And this is full of hits, man. I don't know why anybody would want to even shit on this. It's like this was before the Red Album 62, 66 and the Blue 67 to 70, which is the comprehensive Beatles collection for all of us that grew up in the 70s and 80s. But this, you know, that it's not very expensive, but it is a bit of a feather in the cap for my Beatles collection, which still isn't complete after all these years. There's some albums I have 5 or 6 copies of, and there's albums that I still don't have. Like it makes no sense. I mean, I've got everything digitally, of course, and I can get whatever I need, but Yeah, this is very glossy. Little psychedelic there on the cover. Regardless, it's the boys. You know it's going to be good. So as far as cash grabs go, I've definitely seen worse, man. From E to You, Help, Michelle, Paperback Writer, Day Tripper. This is awesome. Our next contender is a record that I've been wanting to get for many, many years in at least VG Plus in the original pressing to have in my collection because it is that nice. And it was hardly ever going for below $100 in that condition. So thankfully, recently, Rhino Records decided, hey, let's make a 35th anniversary reissue. And the prices are already dropping on the OGs. But this sounds awesome. And it allows me to not spend as much money on getting an OG because I am thoroughly satisfied with how this one sounds. And this wasn't my wheelhouse of music in 1988, but there was a very kind of somber and effective music video I remember very well. And her voice really made you sit up and listen at the time. And man, I was listening to nothing but hip hop at that point, it seemed. And it really broke through that, like all great music does. When you think you're really only one genre, there's only one thing you're all about, you find something that's also awesome. And talking about a revolution, and I mean, Fast Car obviously is incredible. I'm very glad to have this. I bought an extra copy too. I'm thinking my youngest son will eventually like this as well, so I'm gonna sit there and let it collect dust for a couple years while he matures like a wine, you know. But very cool, man. I'm psyched. Rhino Records, after not so great stuff to my mind for the last few years, has really been killing it in the last 12 to 18 months. Not one miss from them. Everything I've gotten has been incredible, sounded awesome, looked great, and the price was really good. So awesome. Yeah. And really, I just miss when I reminisce about going to Rhino Records in Claremont, California back in the 80s when it was a lot of used vinyl and a lot of import CDs. That was a really good spot to go to. Not quite the same. I went there a few years ago, but nothing is the same 30, 40 years later. I'm really just glad they're still in business and that Claremont downtown is still a pretty cool place to visit, you know. And this does sound great, even though it's not a remaster. I'm not sure if there's even a remaster available, man. I'm I'm gonna have to look that one up. I'm off to Discogs. Yeah, this is old, man. Late 80s music week. For whatever reason, a lot of the older records I do buy were from, I guess, about 84 to 89 when I was actually buying vinyl a lot back in the day. And those records have kind of grown legs and gone missing. And I bought many and brought them back. And I bought multiples trying to upgrade and upgrade each time. And here is one that I have yet to become tired of listening to. Depeche Mode 101, the double live album from 1989. They recorded live at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. I was a new fan to Depeche Mode by 1989. I mean, I knew a lot of the hits because they were on college radio and sometimes you could see the videos, but it really wasn't my joint up until about 88, 89, which seemed to be a year of some musical maturity for me, or at least trying something different for once because I don't know, NWA had broken up. Yeah, things were looking kind of grim for a little while in hip hop for me, but I did find alternative music and hey, that made everything better. And Depeche Mode is a dynamically incredible live band. I've seen recent footage, they still are, but in the late 80s, early 90s, they were at the peak of their powers as far as I'm concerned. And really, it's a couple of guys that stand around by keyboards, but it's Dave Gahan, the British hurricane of charisma and movement that absolutely makes these shows wild. If you've never been and you think a keyboard band is going to be boring, guys just standing there kind of looking at their keyboards, heads down, they got the best light show. The fucking visuals are brilliant, and again, Dave Gahan is a magnetically loud, awesome presence singing all these songs. This is a long two record set of great music. While I did not see them on this tour, I was broke and in high school. So yeah, I didn't see this tour. I did see the World Violation tour in 1990 with a bunch of my best friends at Dodger Stadium, and that was transcendent. That was a brilliant, brilliant show that we still talk about today when we get together. How amazing that was! Yep, it is little over 80 minutes of perfectly mic'd, crisp vocal live performance. And if you've ever seen or been to the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, it's massive and cavernous. Like, it does not seem like a spot to have a great show at. I've never been to a concert at the Rose Bowl. I've been to the Rose Bowl a bunch of times, but never for a show. So hearing how full this one sounds and how hard they rock it, like, man, these dudes are bad. Next up is the last month's Interscope Vinyl Collectives record, one that I'm not very familiar with, but one I do not regret getting, which is about a 50-50 proposition at this time because they have sent some steaming turds to my mailbox in their efforts to please everybody all the time. But about one out of every four is something that I'm very excited to get, and they only make 3,000 of each. And sometimes there are ordering problems with new subscribers. So I just let it ride in the beliefs that it'll eventually be something that I want to get. And it has been a number of times that I've been pretty stoked. This one here, Elastica, the 30th anniversary edition of their major label debut. I know the one song that was a hit, which is that Connection. And it had a cool video with it too. Came out in 95 at the height of Britpop. I waited for an opportunity such as this because the IVC, the club, when they release these records, there is a lot of added value on most of them. I mean, there's been record mats and inserts along those lines, but this one is a 2 LP. It's got the original LP on two sides, and then the next one is B sides and rarities. And there's also a 12-page booklet as well. But the B sides and rarities are sometimes on this. There's sometimes only most of them were Australia only or Japan only songs that were on cassette single B sides. I think one song is from a flexi disc giveaway for bonus for buying the record on the day of release, something like that. I'm genuinely going to give this one a try. I have not thought about this song in many, many years. It shows up on a lot of those Britpop documentaries. If you're the kind of person that watches things like that, then you'll see interviews with the singer and people talking about it. So yeah, I'm going to give this a whirl. All right. Thanks for sticking around. And in the interest of keeping this one as short as possible, I'm going to try to make a couple of these the next few days to share with everybody. Because, man, I miss talking about records with my friends here. Thank you, vinyl community. It's always nice to have a place to feel welcome. This next one I had mentioned mere months ago on my list of all-time grails and hardest to find records, man. Like, I would never see this record for anything less than $100. It's very, very desirable by people of my ilk and age, obviously, because again, it's a band from the 80s that was very huge. But for a long, long time, Decade was the only real greatest hits collection from Duran Duran, a great 80s band. I don't really have to tell anybody in the VC how fly assed Duran Duran is and how they changed my mind on new wave music. Again, MTV, man, like it was a drug. There is not one skippable track on this record, and we played the CD of this to death 35 years ago. Absolutely astounded when I found this one uh, at an auction on eBay. And there was only me and somebody else bidding, and they decided to not go that high, which was pretty cool. So I got this for about 50% of what I anticipated it costing me. And it sounds beautiful, super great luster. It's in the original plastic here, and it's not constricting it at all. Excellent, excellent shape. One of my favorite all-time greatest hits records. And they're only one for a long time. And lo and behold, a couple of weeks ago, I get notice that they're releasing a 2 LP on white vinyl, greatest hits Duran Duran package, which of course I fucking pre-ordered because I'm a junkie and I really need it. I really need it, man. I really need it in my collection, and it'll save wear and tear on this one, of course, because I don't think there's a limited amount of the new ones coming out. I am so glad to have one more of my grails off the list because unless you were looking for it, you might not be able to appreciate how hard this was to find at a price under $100. So grateful. And thanks for making it this far. Like I said, man, I am way behind. I've got a stack of decent hip hop vinyl, maybe 10 records that a store a little bit, 45 minutes away had posted on Instagram that they had just got an old school hip hop collection. And, depending upon how old you are, it will depend upon your definition of old school. But there was good records there, and I picked them up. There's a couple more eBay things that came in and pre-orders that came in. So I will try to make as many as possible to share as many as possible because I want to talk to people in the vinyl community about these things. So thanks for sticking around and thanks for always being welcoming. I missed being here. And we are looking forward to Mike MGK Buffalo/Boston, the party in July, and we will be there with bells on, ready to have a good time. Showing up a day early, trying to take in the sights. The wife and I have never seen Niagara Falls, and looking forward to meeting the members of the VC that are showing up, being able to say thank you in person to the people who have been so kind since I've joined. So yeah, that's it. Thanks everybody, and I'll see you next time. Mm-hmm. There you go. That's right. We're really acclimatizing to this. Acclimatizing? I'm gonna have to look that one up. Acclimating, I'm sure. Acclimatize? Hmm. We're busy and we're old, so things are gonna take a minute. And first up, fuck. Uh, this is the Interscope. Fuck, I keep wanting to say internet.